I've helped over 3,000 people start their own business. In this video, I'm going to share 5 proven steps that will jumpstart yours by tomorrow. Starting with a tip so you actually make progress in the next 24 hours. A few years back, I surveyed my email list, around 50,000 subscribers at the time, and found a surprising result. Most people had been thinking of starting their own business for at least a year, often more. But the reason why people get stuck is, surprisingly, also the key to getting started. It's something Adam Grant explores in his book, Hidden Potential. Contrary to popular opinion, when we procrastinate, it's not because we're putting off doing the work. It's because you're avoiding the negative emotions that doing the work brings up.
Only has a few hours left to complete his essay.
This is the reason so many entrepreneurs struggle to get started. It can feel incredibly overwhelming when you don't even know what business to start working on. But instead, it feels much simpler if you start with a different reframe. The first option is to think of your business simply as an extension of your job skills. When I started out, I was leading an analytics team in my 9-to-5. So my first online business was helping people with Microsoft Excel. Option number 2 is to think of your business simply as a vehicle for sharing something you've overcome. For example, because of my experiences, I also knew a lot about how to switch industries and get promoted in my career, which led to my next business, career coaching. But there's still one more option that might actually lead to your best business idea. Treat your business as simply a way to get paid for any skills you've picked up along the way. For me, that was knowing paid ads, and it ended up being the launch point for my multi-million-dollar business. But let's address the elephant in the room. I don't do ads consulting anymore. The truth is, I always knew I ultimately wanted to help others build their own business. But back then, I didn't have the skills or experience to do that. So instead of trying to find the perfect business idea, I picked one I could do and got started. Getting the ball rolling with a good enough business idea is the best way to start moving forward. But once you've got your idea, you're still not in the clear yet. Hidden Potential identifies a huge obstacle that keeps people stuck when they're trying to do something new, like starting your own business. The book uses an example of a polyglot who initially struggled to even learn a single language. But Sarah Maria made the vocabulary flashcards, she went to the classes, and she read the textbooks. But none of it worked because she was so afraid of sounding stupid that she never actually practiced talking in Spanish.
Bonus dice, Maidry.
Turns out, this is a common problem for all of us, especially when we're starting something new. We avoid discomfort at all costs, which means that we can't improve. But then Sarah Maria decided to do something that put her on the path to eventually mastering 6 languages. She moved to Madrid. Plus, she chose to live with a family who only spoke Spanish. Now, she had no choice but to be uncomfortable because speaking Spanish was her only option. And that's how she went from struggling to mastering her new skill in just a few months. This is the same strategy that will help you grow your own business. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I know this is really hard, especially if you're like me and you're not comfortable on video or oversharing naturally. I wish I could give you a story or tip that makes it less scary to get started, but that's not how this works. You've got to just feel the fear and take the jump.
Bring it on.
I still remember hitting publish on my first ever Facebook post for business. My heart was thumping and I really did not want to press that button. Plus, after I pressed it, I immediately regretted it. The post was too boring, no one was going to respond, and I was going to look so stupid. All thoughts racing through my head. My next 10 posts felt like that too. But after the 11th post, it started feeling just a little less scary. Jumping into the discomfort is the only way past it. But even knowing that doesn't make it easy to do. Thankfully, Hidden Potential also explains the science behind what holds us back so we know what to do to actually move forward. The core thought is the same one that initially got in the way of Sarah Maria mastering Spanish. What if I mess up? But research shows that there are actually 3 things you're getting wrong if you're approaching your business this way. Hidden Potential breaks it down using a different polyglot example, and you'll see why it's so good in just a second. Benny Lewis was an engineer who had studied Irish and German for 15 years, but still could not hold a conversation in either language. His first problem? After 15 years, he assumed he just wasn't gifted at learning languages. Maybe you've assumed something similar too. Other people have natural business or marketing talent. I just don't. Spoiler alert, Benny now speaks 8 languages fluently. So his first assumption wasn't right, just as it isn't true for you either. High five to that. But how he learned those 8 languages is the result of uncovering this second untrue belief. I don't want to fail, so I might as well not try. To solve this problem, Benny reframed failure into fun. He challenged himself to talk to each person for more than 5 seconds each time he went to a new country. Even though it didn't go smoothly, as you'll see in just a second, that small shift of focusing on the doing instead of the result was enough to get him out of his comfort zone. But to be able to reach his full potential, Benny had to do one more thing, which you can probably guess when you hear about some of his missteps. One time, he accidentally tells someone he's attracted to a bus. Another time, he introduces himself as the wrong gender. Then, he accidentally compliments someone's rear end.
Not sure I deserve that.
But, and this is the key, instead of beating himself up for those mistakes, he laughs about them. Because the worst thing you can do is shame yourself for not being perfect. In fact, Benny did something brilliant. When he starts learning a new language, he challenges himself to make at least 200 mistakes a day. Because that's how you learn. When you focus on making more mistakes instead of less, that's how you grow faster. Especially if you use what I think is the best strategy for growing fast when you're starting out. When I was initially figuring out how to help my clients get great results, I stumbled upon Rich Lippman's book, The Prosperous Coach. One of its core ideas is that you should offer a free 2-hour session to potential clients. The goal is to make this such a transformational time that they will naturally want to continue working with you without you having to do the normal marketing and sales stuff that most people don't like. Now, 2 hours felt too long to me. But I liked the idea of giving lots of value up front, so I had to play with it and figure out what worked for me. First, I offered to help a woman for free after seeing her ask questions in a Facebook group that we were both in. Back then, I was consulting on ad strategy using my job skills. I didn't really have a plan, but thankfully, after 2 weeks, she said to me, "You've given me so much value for free, how can I hire you?" Of course, I was so excited. But I also started thinking that having to give free value for 2 weeks at a time isn't scalable. Now, I am a former engineer, so I just can't help myself. I started obsessing about how to make it more efficient. Eventually, it hit me. If you are super focused on helping a potential client get one win, basically concentrating your time together to help them get one valuable takeaway, you can condense it into what I call a 30-minute free taster. But the key is to be laser focused. Start the call saying, okay, in this next half hour, we're gonna be super focused on you getting this one takeaway. And at the end, if you like what I share, I'd also love to talk to you about how I can work with you further. Does that sound good? And that's how I got my next 3 clients. But I wanna prepare you for something that is inevitably going to happen. Because if you're putting yourself out there on these free calls, you could, and you probably will, be rejected. The good news is, there's actually a scientific way to overcome the fear of rejection. And it's explained in this example from Hidden Potential. Every pilot's worst nightmare. You're flying through the air, but your engine stalls. All of a sudden, you are hurtling towards the ground. It's the most common cause of death when you fly an aircraft, which is something every pilot is keenly aware of each time they step into that cockpit. That's why exposure therapy is an essential part of their training. First, you're required to experience stalls in a flight simulator. But then comes the real test. At some surprise moment, when you are flying the real airplane, your instructor will tell you to purposefully stall your engine and see how you handle it. Exposure therapy is the best approach for your business too. If you're scared of getting rejected, pitch yourself to as many people as possible. This way, you desensitize yourself to that fear of rejection. As someone who was so scared of getting rejected and having people judge me, let me tell you, after 30 no's in a row, which is what I had to personally go through, suddenly getting a no is not that big a deal anymore. But if you need a little more inspiration to help you get started, I've got a fail-safe for you. In this next video, I'll walk you through 5 ways you can bring in at least $10K a month using what you already know. It'll help you get over the initial hump so you can make even more progress in the next 24 hours.